Well, cheers! I was trying to grab some papers and they got away from me. Anyway, cure me or kill me, Gilby Clark. Hey, happy Labor Day, all. My dad was a pro-union guy. It does amaze me, though, that we got the far right has this anti-union sentiment, but they're more than happy to take an extra day. That hypocrisy kills me. You like to have an extra day off? Well, thank the union. You want to get paid overtime? Thank the union. Anyway, hey, so I'm doing a couple things here to, in my own way, honor my dad, who was a Jim Beam drinker. I recently found this Jim Beam Repeal Batch Non-Chill Filter Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. It is 43% or 86 proof. This limited edition bourbon is a tribute to the 85th anniversary of Prohibition's repeal. When it ended on December 5th of 1933. James B. Beam and his family rebuilt the distillery in just 120 days. This brought the Beam family recipe, and some say bourbon itself, back to life. So let me put that here. My dad drank Jim Beam a specific way, so I tried to get as close to recreating that particular highball as I could. Now, Dad didn't measure anything, and I did measure some stuff out, but I tried to get it in the spirit that he would do it. Dad liked Jim Beam and water. So I've got the 3 cubes in there. I've got 2 ounces of the Jim Beam and 1 ounce of water in the ice. So I'm going to take a drink now. Now, Dad had his glass, and he put some ice cubes in. He'd fill up with just pour the Jim Beam bottle till it was about there, and then fill up the rest of it with water. So mine is 2 ounces of beam to 1 ounce water. Dad's was probably a little bit stronger than that, but since I've got things to do today, that's as strong as I'm going to make it at the moment. I don't have an Olympia, but what I do have, Dad also drank Olympia. So I'm trying to honor my father today. It's not Memorial Day, it's Labor Day, but still, Olympia beer. So I had this Olympia glass. Dad drank Olympia after moving to California after World War II. So I'm going to pour an old school beer, drink it rather quick because it got hot out here. I had this beer in the freezer, but sitting out here trying to get everything set up for the video took me a little longer than I thought. So I poured a little bit there. Anyway, my brother, I mentioned another video. So I recently got my dad's bar over here that had been at my brother's house for a while. So I've got that set up in my garage. And my brother had done some research on our dad, but he was unable to get a few things. Part of the reason is, and we won't know the other part of the reason, is that there was a fire in St. Louis Veterans Administration, so a lot of the records were lost. But it does seem like they're just not wanting to tell us a few things. My brother broke it down, though. He was involved in a few key battles here, but they're unable to tell us exactly what battle that was that he was put up for the Bronze Star. As near as my brother could narrow it down, I think he got it here. No, I thought he wrote down here, but didn't. It's a contact of Washington Dad Service Records. Wow, some technical difficulties. I don't know what went through or not, man. We're just gonna keep going anyway. My dad has a Bronze Star. Let's just start there. Dad never talked about it. None of his kids really know what happened. And my brother had been trying to get some information on it, but had been unable to. So he was originally assigned as a truck driver, light duties, and then at some point was made into a rifleman. As near as we can figure out, well, I had the information here, now I lost it again. So we only know that when he was awarded the Bronze Star medal, because we have the plaque, the medal show for it, we don't know the circumstances that led to it. The timeline would indicate, though, that his Bronze Star was awarded on or about August 8th of 1944, and this took place in the Battle of New Guinea, Bismarck Archipelago. So there we go. That's just because most of the records have been destroyed. That's all we know, man. So I don't know how much you're able to hear, but hey, the dangers of live video, and some people would like to edit stuff out. I like to be honest. The passing of John McCain, I've been pretty clear on my point of view. I wasn't crazy about a lot of his politics. But as far as Republicans go, he was probably one of the more reasonable. Like I said, I didn't agree with a lot of stuff he did, but I did agree with a portion. But that aside, I always respected his military service. You have to think a man like that is a hero. After all he went through, whether you like his politics or not. And that's kind of the sad state of politics today in this country, is that people seem to have that Sith mentality, quoting Star Wars there, is, if you're not with me, you're against me. And that's not the way it used to be. Joe Biden said during his speech that there was a time when they'd sit together, and then they were both asked not to do that. And that's a damn shame that people can't find a way to get along. But that's the society we seem to live in now, and people don't seem to want to change that. Someone tried to call me some names the other day because he knows where my politics are, and I said something positive about McCain after his passing. I said, yeah, I disagreed with his politics. I've been very clear about that. But I've also been very clear that I admired his military service. And for some reason, you have people today that are of the mindset that you can't do both. You can. Biden also had a nice point there. So when you attack somebody's motives, their argument's lost. You're both going to get defensive, and nothing's going to get solved. But if you can have an argument on the points of the discussion, and then something can be solved. Maybe you won't always see eye to eye, but maybe you can find some middle ground that works. And I think that's another problem with politics is people don't want to compromise. Somehow compromise became this dirty word. Well, this is my position and that's it. Well, then you're a stubborn ass. Anyway, that's my position. My dad was a rather, I probably by today's standards, he'd be a centrist. He was just slightly to the left of center, very slightly to the left. He was as dead center as you could be. He was liberal on social issues, more conservative on other issues. I know one of the reasons that he first became a Democrat was the CCC camps. I mean, work was hard, or work was not plentiful back then, so the CCC camps put him to work. And so he was always grateful for that. It was one of the reasons he became a Democrat. It's the reason he stayed the Democrat, because he felt like so many Republicans were just trying to take the rights away. He saw, I mean, under Reagan all but killed. Anyway, I'm trying not to get too political, but I'm trying to honor my dad. And the way to do that is to be honest. With a little beam and water, my dad's way. But see, that's it. I mean, my dad was a war hero, but he's a guy who never wanted to be called a war hero. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't think it needed to be talked about. Let me put it that way. It's not that he didn't want to. He didn't feel it needed to be discussed. You're beating a dead horse, or there's no use looking up a dead horse's ass. But both sides ought to be able to find a way to get along without it regressing into just a name-calling and shouting session. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be possible with the climate today, with the leadership or lack thereof that's in the White House today, because discourse isn't something that they seem to want. They want you to agree with everything they say, and if you don't, you're wrong. And again, that's the problem. You need to be able to have a discussion, and you need to have people in that discussion willing, willing to find some common ground and meet in the middle. But when you have people that absolutely refuse to compromise, nothing is going to happen. I have some things in common with my dad. My temperament, I was. And I like to think honestly. I always say what's on my mind, for better or worse. Some people like that, some people don't. But it's just the way it is. And the older I get, I'm not necessarily I'm not trying to make enemies, but I'm not trying to make friends either. If you don't like something, that's fine. You don't have to like me. But I know I'm a decent person. I treat people right. And if you're not going to do that, if you're going to think that the color of your skin somehow makes you better than somebody else, then I'm not going to have anything to do with you. At one point, before kids came along, Dad was a union truck driver. Before I came along, Dad had serious back surgery. And at the time Dad had it done, it was experimental. So by the time I came along, things were Dad had a lot of medical issues, and even though he was a truck driver, he was basically unhireable. Nobody would insure him. So that's why he started his own business. He had some bars before I was born, and I think shortly after, and then he sold the bars and started the catering truck business, which was big in California at the time. He had what was called then a hot truck. They call them food trucks now, but it was a different ballgame. Now they're kind of now they're trendy and decorative. But when Dad had the truck, it was functional. And what he did was there was a lot of booming construction in the late '60s, throughout the '70s in California. So he had a route that would go to all the construction. He had a breakfast, lunch, and I won't say dinner, but breakfast, lunch, and afternoon. He would hit these spots. So I had a rather interesting upbringing, between going to the bars and going on the truck with Dad. But I enjoyed it. I mean, hell, I was counting money before I was 5 years old. I could fry a hamburger. Think of it grilled or fried, I could cook it. In fact, when I was in school, I would steal a couple items from Dad's truck, either a Polish sausage or a hamburger. And I think we had about 45 minutes for lunch back then. And it was about, if I went fast, I could get home in about 10 minutes. So I'd get home as quick as I could. I'd fry me a hamburger or a Polish sausage, get my ass back to school. Even though you weren't technically supposed to leave, I did. Mom and Dad sometimes knew I was doing it, sometimes they didn't. But I went back. I was rather independent, but I like to cook my own damn food. I'm still that way, actually. I do like to cook. Part of it's because I enjoy cooking. The other part is I like things done, my way. If somebody else is cooking, it's not done my way. So, I'm kind of being nice by volunteering to do all the cooking, but it's a bit of a control issue. Yeah, I like things done a specific way, and if I'm doing it, I can make sure it's done that way. So, cheers, Pop. I love you. We got our work ethic from you, which is a strong one. All of his kids did. Dad was a pro-union guy, as I am, even though throughout my working life, I've only worked one union job. However, I will say, I worked that position non-union, and I worked that position union for somebody else. I made more money in the or I made more money in the union position. The benefits are better in the union position, and you know, I won't say they always are, but I would say probably just about damn always. Yeah, and it's funny how the other side wants to convince you that unions are bad when every good thing you've had. We don't have child labor because we have unions. But I think the other side would like you to get back to where they can just pollute as much as they like and pay you as little as they can, and we're going to go back to sweatshops and child labor issues again. Because that's what poor people are for, right? There you go. A little bit of politics, a little bit about my dad, and a whole lot of truth. I'm John BeerVangelist, BeerVangelist, prolific beer drinker, Purveyor of Wisdom all around, good guy.